Awesome. Welcome everybody to this super exciting, like personally super exciting, and I'm sure you are excited too, episode of the Access Consciousness Publishing initiative to really get books out in the world. And today we have with us the wonderful Miss Kari Glassell, and she's coming all the way from America. It's early in the morning for us, and she's agreed to do this. So thank you so much, Kari. It's such an honor to share the space with you. And we really
Oh, same for me. It is such an honor to reconnect with one of my favorite places in the whole world, India.
Yay! Just a little bit. I mean, I was going through your website and I was going through everything you do. And you're
Oh,
a producer, an author, a speaker, philanthropist, an art lover, and a mother, right? And there's so much that you do. And you're born into this whole thing with this ease that you always had with riches and money, such a different energy that like a lot of people kind of look forward to always having it. Like everyone wants to be a billionaire, right? So, I mean, there's so much we can really cover, but we want to kind of keep this open for you and really get to what has money been for you and what is it that you can share with us today about money?
excuse me, but wow. So there's so much energy right now that just came up. I'm so glad you said, what does money mean to me? Because I was going to ask, hi,
Hi,
welcome.
Anu.
Anuradha, hi. What I was going to do was I was going to ask the audience, what does money mean to them? Because over the last night, there's been a really big energy up. And yes, Indians love money. I think that everybody says they love money. Um, hmm, is there a conflictual paradigm there? We love money, but if we really loved money, wouldn't it somehow be easier for us to attain? So there's this conflict. And that's sort of what I wanted to share with you about, some of which, because, wow, first of all, let's just do a big promotion. I have the old version of The Right Riches for
Wow.
You.
Yeah.
And I went around the world for about 8-9 years, really promoting this particular class and this particular energy of access consciousness, developed, of course, by Gary Douglas and Dr. Dain Heer. Really the most amazing points of view to look at money through. Very different from everything we were raised, very different from what our parents said, very different from what our cultures say. And I think if anything we can get out of this particular 30 minutes of talking about it would be that money is an energy and you are an energy. Now, how do we become compatible? Excuse me while I have my smart water so I can get smarter. So that would be one of the big themes that I always look forward to inviting people to. How do you become compatible with the energy of money? And what is it that makes you think you're not compatible with the energy of money? And so there's this milieu, this huge spectrum of points of view that get in our way and limit us from actually acknowledging we can be compatible with money. That's sort of it in a nutshell. Now, for me personally, do you want me to tell you just a little bit about me?
Yes, please. Like we'd love to hear.
Okay, so I'm just gonna go just a little bit because I think my life is pretty boring, but anyway, so I was raised in a billionaire's household, no question about it. The man was one of the founders. Him and his father founded the many of the pipelines, oil and gas pipelines in the United States. So I was surrounded by just like unbelievable amounts of money. Okay. Now I say that because there's two sides to every coin. Okay. And I'll never forget the day that Gary Douglas asked me. I did a lot of personal work with Gary in the early years, 2001, 2002, 2003, 2004, 2005. I was sure I was really fucked up and had a lot of work to do. Okay. So I spent a lot of time doing personal work and in classes with Gary and Dain. So one day he turns to me and he says, was it worth it? And I took a deep breath and I knew exactly what he was asking me, and I'll explain it. And I was like, actually, no, it wasn't. And I wouldn't do it again. And what he was asking me was the money worth the price you had to pay for it? There's always a price. Okay. So growing up in a billionaire's household, the man was also extremely violent, extremely arrogant in a not positive way, not in like that he thought like that he had positive, great things to do. He was always seeking someone to fill his ego. He was really had no time for family or friends. There was never had barbecues. People never came over to the house. It was a very chilly, emotionally void household with episodes of violence and abuse. And that's what I was raised in. Yeah, there was lots of money. And to the outside world, it looked like I was one of the luckiest girls in the world. In fact, I grew up not feeling valued, not being aware that I had any talents and ability, and not even being aware that I was pretty at all or smart. So was it worth it to grow up with so much damn money? Nope, it wasn't worth it. And I chose it. So what the fuck, right? Oh, can I say that word?
Yes.
Sorry. Okay, so like really WTF. And so I have literally spent, and thank God I had the money to do it. I've spent the last 40 years of my life seeking personal awareness, seeking happiness, trying to figure out in my head until access, what the heck was I doing here? And what in the world did I think choosing this sort of, somehow I knew I chose it even before access. I'm like, I would choose this for what reason, right? And so when I finally met Gary and Dain, I was like, oh my gosh, my whole life started coming together and being more coherent because their tools gave me real food to feed on. I could actually change what I was looking to change. I actually became aware that I was the creator of the good, the bad, and the ugly. And to get back to this amazing book, Right Riches for You, the number one thing, if you're willing to acknowledge that you're an infinite being with infinite capacities, infinite awarenesses, you have the capacity to create or destroy your life. This is foundational. If you're going to have the future you'd like, you must acknowledge who you be. Who you be. You are an infinite being and you have infinite capacities, infinite potency. If you cannot go there, then we'll have to backtrack and take a look at, okay, so for what reason would you not look at being an infinite being? So that's where we start. That's where I usually start with all my classes. Choice. Are you willing to choose to be who you are?
Wow. I did not, I had like heard snippets of, this, I mean, parts of this conversation that you've had, like, and thank you for having these conversations with Gary, like, even in the classes that, that we have done recently. And that's the thing, is like, as you're talking, there's also this whole energy of that. So what did you get? Like, was it worth it? And then let me ask you again, this way, if you were to choose things differently, what would they be now? With this whole...
Right. Well, for me, I would for sure have chosen less money and kinder parents who actually had an interest in my life and gave me a foundation of value from which to launch my life. I had no foundation.
It's kind of like, as you're talking about the wealth of possibilities that we talk about, rather than the wealth that this reality is like, oh my God, billionaire parent.
Yeah.
And could you talk about that part? Like, and that's what, like, I love about this book is, and maybe I'm jumping ahead the chapters, but like the wealth of possibilities, and then what does hedonism look like from functioning from that wealth of possibilities? Or is that too extreme? Should I?
No, well, I mean, hedonism is fabulous, and that's part of the generating, the life you'd really like to have. If you're willing to do what you love, if you're willing to be generous with yourself, that is one of the definitions of hedonism. It'd be really great if someone would look up a definition of hedonism so we could share it with the entire group.
Because
A pleasure seeker.
a pleasure
But so,
seeker,
yes,
and
but
then
what,
the someone who loves decadence.
yes,
Yeah,
and someone who's willing to have it all.
who's willing to have it all. And that's the thing. It's like, so now we have the dictionary meaning, a pleasure seeker, and you know, okay, fine, like this money thing. Could you talk about hedonism from functioning from that wealth of possibilities, and like you said, the generosity to self?
Well, of course, okay, so it turns everything upside down that we were raised around. Okay, so we were raised in what Access calls contextual reality, which is win-lose, which is either or, which is black-white. So hedonism and generosity of spirit and seeking pleasure is more like, oh, what would you like to have? So like everything's the opposite of what it appears to be. So what would you really like to have as your life if you are willing to be that infinite being and step into that energy? Then there is nothing impossible for you except what you think about you. You are the only person that has the power to destroy you. But that's you know, the joy and the laughter, because that's a big spoonful of medicine to take. You need like a little sugar to help that medicine go down. How many people do you know who are willing to say, wow, my life sucks and I caused it?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
You know, we all want to
for it, but
go
not.
ahead.
Yeah, either they'll blame themselves for it or someone else for it, but it wouldn't be from the space of like, okay, I chose this. Like, let me like take a moment with that, you know, without any judgment of it. Yeah.
Well, and to not have judgment of yourself. These are one of the biggest things. I've literally been working on this over 20 years, coming out of judgment of my choice to come to this crazy ass family that I came to. And I don't mean good crazy. I mean, not good crazy. And all the work I've had to do to reconcile what I seem to know versus what was impelled at me and what was entrained at me. And you know, I was told I was supposed to get married to a powerful man and then everything would be fine, rich and powerful, let me add, and then everything would be great. The problem is I'm not really good at being told what to do. That's not easy for me. And I spent most of my life resisting and reacting and fighting that point of view, which also didn't work out so well.
You know, Kari, if I may ask you a question, like I've always wanted to ask someone who's had access to billions and who has access to someone like Barack Obama and, you know, like dine with them and wine with them, like what is
Yeah.
that like? And can you talk about, like in India especially, actually I wouldn't say India, like rest of the world, there's this addiction to poverty, and that's also mentioned in the book. So can you say a little bit about what does that kind of money create for you, and what is addiction to poverty?
Okay, well, let's go back even further. You said access to billions. So what did you mean by access to billions exactly?
With being born in a family that has that kind of money, when you grow up in an environment where money isn't something which is of, I mean, it isn't a concern, it isn't a problem.
Right.
So when you've been born in that environment, does it allow you to have a different set of choices? And what has that changed you different? I mean, has that created a different you with money, like your equation with money today?
Well, yes, the good side is that I don't have an angst. Mostly, I don't have an angst about money because it was not, that was the one thing that was not lacking. The one thing that was not lacking in my childhood. There was always a house, there was always a roof. These basic staples that many people suffer with was not lacking for me. You know, I had clothes to put on. I had a roof, I had a bath, I had water, I had, you know, a beautiful yard to play in. Okay. That was not lacking. So that's a very different way to grow up without a sense of financial lack. And that has been a real gift for me. Now, everything else was basically void. I mean, literally, I never saw my parents until dinner, and we were not allowed to talk at the table anyway. I mean, I never had a conversation with an adult until I got to high school. Okay, so I'm like, socially slightly retarded in the true sense of the word, that was very, very difficult. So I didn't fully, and being slightly autistic, being ADD, being ADHD, being an artist, struggling with math and science and loving history and languages. I grew up this like sort of strange kid that had all these awarenesses and had no tools to handle them. And so I started smoking pot when I was 13 years old to deal with the family situation. And then at 14, I enrolled myself in boarding school and I got the hell out, and I basically saved my own life emotionally. And that's when I began to grow, when I put myself into boarding school and I began to interact with adults, people, teachers. I began to have mentors. I began to see, oh, wow, I have some value. I mean, I never really knew that I was anything but a commodity until then. It's a strange thing. And so growing up in an extremely rich family, and I have to tell you, I had friends who committed suicide because they didn't make the straight A's. And there was so much pressure on them from their family and not enough foundation. I would say a lot of the people I grew up with had very difficult, unhappy, emotional households, but they had a lot of money. And this is what people really don't understand or get. They dream of having billions, but there is very few, very, very few people who are wealthy that actually have any kind of generosity of spirit or kindness or capacity to even be empathetic with another person. Very rare. So growing up with billions, I was not given that kind of money. I was on a strict allowance, literally until I got married. Until I was 30, I was on an allowance. Can you imagine? Till I was in my 30s. Well, maybe you can, because you have a pretty strong family structure in India. That's bizarre. And I tried to go get a job a couple times, and my dad was like, "What are you're embarrassing me. But people will think I can't afford, to have a daughter. People will think there's something wrong with me. If it would reflect badly on him if I went to get a job." It was a very bizarre way to be raised, So access to billions. So the only access I had to billions was my father, who was a billionaire. I didn't have any access to the money. I didn't have any access to his friends or his social group. He never even presented me in a way that, I mean, I'm not even sure people knew he had a daughter for a while. Seriously, because the son was the most important one. You all wouldn't know anything about that, would you? Would you, huh?
Are you secretly an Indian, Curry?
Have I what?
Yeah, you
Are you secretly an Indian?
Very possibly. I was like going, oh my God, is my head going to start going like this?
Yeah, it's funny, like as if like the upper class or the richer or the billionaire strata doesn't have a country or a culture. They just sort of have a culture of their own, because the way you're describing this, I know so many kids who have access to billionaires, or because of their billionaire parents and grandparents and everything, and they're exactly like and you're the next person I'm hearing like who's like, well, you were on allowance until 30, because that's exactly like grown-up people. They have kids, but they get salary, I mean, which may be like more than a lot of other people. But then it's funny, like
Right.
they and some of them, when they come for sessions, it's the one thing that I have to get them to start looking at is because they know nothing about trusting themselves.
Very good point. Extremely good point. Yes, I would say that's probably how come I invested the majority of what money I had in personal development, whether it was I mean, I can't tell you, I signed up at least 2 times for psychotherapy because before Access, right?
Yeah.
It was all I knew. It was all I knew. I thought, okay, I have to get over this issue.
Yeah, that's all they know, you know? Yeah.
You
So,
know, and it doesn't really work because until you have your own back and you can trust yourself, which is, again, I go back to these access tools are such a gift because they give you an opportunity to begin to learn to trust your knowing. And that is the greatest gift, period, you know? And that's why I responded to Gary, no, it wasn't worth it. And I wouldn't do it again. Because to be raised with an opportunity to know that you're a valuable child, that you have valuable just because you smile and you breathe is not something I was given.
yeah.
And that is the foundation of trusting yourself, to know you have value. I've had to go through, oh, you don't even want to know. I mean, sometime, you know, if you guys ever mentor with me or take a class with me, you'll have a lot more access to the intimate insanities I lived through. And, you know, now I look at my life as what contribution can I be to others so that if someone has a similar situation, you know, I can hold their hand and say, hey, this will make it easier if you're willing to try this tool. This could make your future work better, you know, and I can share my experience with you.
And
I'm
can
not sure if I answered everybody's question, but okay.
I just wanted to, like, it's so beautiful, your journey to persevere and, you know, to find and be more of you, and that element of valuing you and trusting you, that journey, do you, how do you get from, I don't know, how do you, I guess I'm asking a how question.
Well,
What's
but
the journey like?
the how is a good question in this instance because the how is practicing the tools, whatever tools work for you. For me, the access tools were the number one tools that gave me an ability to do something to change my future. And as I did the tools, then I began to get this awareness of what being the tool is. And let's just look at choice, or let's look, no, that's a real hard one. Never mind. Let's look at question. Let's look at question. Okay. I didn't, before I met Gary Douglas, I mean, the only questions I knew how to ask, which I was very fortunate, was, you know, what color is going to go best on this painting? Because I was an artist and I was in art school. So I did know how to ask some questions. Thank God. I knew how to ask, well, is the space here, you know, what object needs to go there? So I was constantly asking questions about creating paintings, sculpture, and in that realm. So I had a curiosity naturally, and I knew how to ask questions about how to create, not the perfect painting, but how to create, you know, a pleasable, you know, piece of art. Let's put it that way, you know. And I was driven to do this because it gave me a sense, the first and only sense I had of myself as a being. I actually could do something with my hands that was pretty. And when someone said they liked it, oh, there was like a little bit of acknowledgement there. So how is a great thing to ask in certain circumstances. How did I get to where I am today? With a lot of fucking perseverance, stubbornness, and I just refuse to give up. I must be like a dog on the leg of a postman or something. I just, you know, put my teeth in to personal awareness, and I'm like, I'm not giving up until I get happy. I can't explain it any other way. I just went, I'm getting happy no matter what it takes.
And you know, and as I'm hearing you talk about, because none of us, I think, we expected the conversation to, you know, go there, and I'm like, wow, this is so amazing. And you know, Kari, like, this is so cool how you used your life to create something that's so beyond this reality with the access tools, because anyone else from this reality they would have been like, you know what, I hate money because this is what money does to relationships. And nowhere in anything that you're talking, you're going towards that. You're like, hey, okay, I acknowledge, and this is the person, and you know what, not my smartest choice. But so amazing that you are not creating a separation with money, which is so, so, so amazing. And thank you for making that choice.
Well, this is actually at the very, very beginning. I actually had to look at where I had separated from money. I'm so glad you brought that up because I had some very obnoxiously strict religious upbringing in my father's household. I literally had to say prayers 3 times a day, blah, blah, blah. I had to read the Bible verses. Oh my God.
That's it, you're Indian.
What?
You're Indian. Like, just accept it. Religion, money,
Exactly, right? And so, but let me tell you, when I struggled a lot and I misidentified and misapplied. There is a Bible verse. I also had a minor in theology. So I've read the Bible a couple times, actually 3 times in 3 different versions. But so I misidentified this verse in the Bible. And I decided as a young child, because my parents were so cruel in so many ways, that money was the root of all evil. I literally did make that decision. And it wasn't until I met Gary Douglas and I started really looking at my points of view about money that I recognized, oh crap, that really needs to be undone because that is not working for me. That is creating poverty in my life, that point of view. And it's also a misapplication. The real verse is, the love of money is the root of all evil. Very, very different than money is the root of all evil. And so I had to quickly and thankfully begin to unravel that, because that was creating poverty for me. And again, looking at your decisions and your thoughts about money, whatever your decisions have been in the past and whatever your thoughts are about money is playing out in your reality. It is the reason you are where you are today. And if you aren't super happy with it, then we have to change what's going on in the mind.
I mean, this has been such a wonderful conversation, Kari. Like thank you so much for sharing your life with us. It's this one lifetime and such amazing different things that you've been able to change and achieve and invite people to. Like I think all of us are super grateful, and this is something which I'm sure all our viewers are enjoying. I know we've come to probably the tail end of this conversation. I would really want everyone who's watching to know how can they reach out to you and what are the kind of programs you facilitate, and do you have anything coming up?
Oh, aren't you kind? Thank you. I do. I actually have a whole plan that I've been creating over the past like 6 months in COVID. And so you can reach me easily on my website. If you can spell my name, I think you'll have an easy one with my first name. It's Curry. I'm like, yeah, go India. So Curry Glassell, CurryGlassell. And it's actually right up there too. So curryglassell.com. Everything I'm doing is on my website. Please, I would love to invite you to go there. What's coming up next for me is I have created a monthly challenge to see if you're really interested in looking, straight on what is hindering you, what is stopping you from having a greater financial future. I've got a month challenge that I've created. It also acts as a prerequisite to working with me on a one-to-one basis or on a small group basis. So what I'm looking at is, how do I walk with people through their treacherous life of decisions and conclusions? And how do we unravel that in a way that you can step out and really become your own financial guru? Become your own guru. Learn how to use these tools in a way that you can create a greater life for you. And so that's pretty much what I'm doing. I also facilitate right now Being You with Money classes. I don't have another one set up right now, but there will be one coming soon. I also, as you know, facilitate Right Riches for You classes. I will be doing an intro to that sometime. I'll be doing some free Zooms. There's lots of free stuff that I've done on YouTube. So please, 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 if this resonates with you, come play with me. I'd love for anyone you know to come and hop on the bandwagon and hop on the train, the craziest train in the world, which is to look at where you have stopped yourself, where you have destroyed yourself, and where can you unlock those limitations and have something greater. That's my dream for everybody.
Wow. And thank you for being that contribution and choosing this in the world. It makes our world a great place. Thank you.
Yes.
Oh, and when do I get to come to India?
Yeah. Yeah, soon. Like, yeah, what'll it take? And we're making a demand for you
Yes.
to.
We're going to get you to India soon. Thank you so much, Kari. And those of you who are watching, we were talking about the Right Riches for You book. You can get your copy on Kindle. You can buy it on Amazon. You can buy it on the Access Consciousness website as well. And for you to reach Kari, we will make sure that the link to her website is also available in the comments below, and you can reach her, and then we can change the world and make more money. Yay!
Am I supposed to put it in the comments below?
We
or
will do
you?
it. We will do it for you.
And also
It's
you can buy
already-
what? You can also
It's
buy
already
the
there.
book. You can buy the book on my website too. I have a lot of access books on my website too.
Wow.
So absolutely. It's for me, the access tools are brilliant and wonderful. If you're ready to go, it is the fast train to personal awareness and consciousness.
Wow. Thank you so much for making it easy for all of us, Kari. Thank you so much.
Oh,
Thank you so
guys.
much.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.